So thank you guys so much for joining me today. We're going to be doing a shower melt workshop, which I'm really excited about as we head into like cold and flu season and everything else that we've got going on right now. So the shower melts are pretty cute. They're just these little guys like this. So mine are kind of on the smaller side, but you can make them all different sizes depending on whatever you've got for your different molds. So you can kind of get an idea of what that looks like. I've got some in that little like towery shape, and I also made some that are seashell shaped. So you guys can kind of go with whatever you've got in your space. But they're really nice. I just opened up the container of them, and they smell so good and kind of just, it's like a settling, calming smell. And it is, of course, great if you're sick or if you have allergies and just need to work some of that congestion out. So for today's class, what you're going to need is a mixing bowl or a cereal bowl, something fairly small. Don't need a ton of space. And then baking soda, which you'll need 1 cup of. So I've got mine measured here like I'm at a cooking show. So 1 cup of baking soda. And then water. It doesn't really matter what the temperature is. Just have it on hand, and you'll need a tablespoon to scoop the water. So it'll be a tablespoon at a time as we add it. So I've got my cup of water and my tablespoon here. And then essential oils, recommended lavender, peppermint, and eucalyptus, but you can use different smells if you want different scents. Like if you're not looking for the congestion buster, you could use more spa-like scents or something fruity to kind of wake you up in the morning, something on the citrus end of things. But you'll need those 3 scents if you want to do the congestion version, or whatever sort of scents you want to work with. And then food coloring or soap colorant is optional. So if you want to add them, you can see mine are like a really soft seafoamy blue-green color. That is totally aesthetics, right? It doesn't do anything to make them work any better, but especially if you're going to gift them, sometimes it's kind of cute to have a little color added. So you can use soap colorant, you can use food coloring, gel color, doesn't really matter. It actually takes very little of it to do quite a bit of color, so it doesn't really matter. And then as far as stirring, I'm going to use a spatula to stir with. I've got like a little skinny handled spatula, but you can use your little tablespoon if you want. You can use any sort of thing that works really well for mixing. It doesn't really matter, whatever you've got on hand.
If we do a food coloring, it's not going to dye the tub, is it?
No, it won't dye the tub.
Okay.
And then a mold. So the molds I have here are actually like chocolate molds or molds for fondant. They're like cooking molds. Silicone molds work best because it's super easy to pop something out at the end. So pop it out like this out of the mold. But if you don't have a silicone mold, you can use like a cupcake tin or something like that in a pinch. That'll work too. I know, like I said, these are for baking specifically, but we also have baby food containers. So if you are somebody who made baby food and you have those silicone containers or silicone ice cube trays, things like that work great too. They're a little bit bigger, but honestly, it doesn't really matter. Like you could use the smaller ones if you're gonna do just tiny little amounts. Honestly, if I was having a shower and doing this, I'd probably use about 3 of them at once. Can you guys check your mics for me and just make sure your mics are off unless you're asking a question? It'll just prevent background noise from everybody else on the call. And then in addition to that, so we've got our molds. Like I said, if you don't have a silicone mold, we can do the ice cube tray, even a muffin tin will work. They're just a little harder to push out later on. All right, does anybody have questions about supplies? Anybody? Nope, I've got got some thumbs up happening, so that is good. Right, I'm gonna pin my video so I make sure that I'm who you're seeing, and we'll get started. So we're gonna start off by putting our full scoop, our full cup of baking soda straight into our bowl. So we start with all of that in there, and then it's like a gradual process of adding the water as we work. I'm gonna tip you down so you can follow along. Everybody's got their little bowl here. And then we're going to add our water 1 tablespoon at a time. So we want to have 2 to 5 tablespoons of water on hand so that we can add that much if we need to. My first batch, I think 4 tablespoons was like my happy amount. Hazel, that looks great. So I'm going to pour them in almost like it's a little well in the middle. So I'm going to make like a little hole in the middle. And I'm going to add my first tablespoon of water right to that center little well I just made. And I'm going to use my spatula to stir it around. Like I said, you don't have to use a spatula. You can use your little tablespoon. You can use a wood spoon, whatever you've got on hand. And it's going to immediately clump together. So it's going to get kind of sticky and kind of clumpy right from the start. But I just want to make sure I'm not getting one giant clump. So that's why I'm going to add it a little bit at a time, just to make sure I'm able to bust this up as I work it. Then you can add your next tablespoon. It's for sure going to take 3 to get there. But somewhere between that middle amount. Like I said, 4 was right for me with my first batch. And just break those clumps up. If anybody's ever made bath bombs before, a lot of times we have baking soda in there too, because baking soda makes the fizzy action in the tub. And that's sort of the same thing we're going to get with these when we use them. We'll get that sort of fizzing action. And then as they melt, they'll release that essential oil scent. So that was my second tablespoon. I'm going to add my third. Mine's still pretty chunky, so we want to get it to a pasty consistency. So you can see mine looks almost like the start of pie crust. So we need to add at least 1 more. Might take 2 more. Might take that full 5 until I get to sort of a paste. It should be a thick paste, so I don't want it to be thinned out or too watery, but it definitely needs to be to a paste. So if anything looks like it's crumbling still, that means there's not enough water. So now I'm starting to get to sort of the consistency I want. If you were to take your spoon or your spatula across it and you're able to make like a smooth pass like that, that means we're at the consistency we want. So if yours is looking like that, that means you're pretty good. If things are still really crumbly, then you might need a little bit of extra water.
Casey?
Yes? Can you show me again? That's perfect, Hazel. How's everybody else looking? Can you give me a little hold up? Can I get a peek? Peek at your mixtures. Looking good, Becky. Excellent, Katrina. Good. You guys are looking good. So as long as you can make that soft pass across and it looks all smooth, you're in a good place, because that means you're going to be able to press it into the mold really nicely. So while we've got it like this, we're going to add our scents to it. So like I said, our traditional scents are going to be the peppermint, eucalyptus, and lavender. And we're going to add 10 drops of each of those. If you want to shake things up, you can try something more citrusy. I'm actually going to do some eucalyptus and spruce to make sort of a Christmassy one, just since I've got this fresh batch with the traditional mixture that I'm talking to you guys about. Either way, it's going to be that 30 drops total of scent. So it should be 10 each, eucalyptus, peppermint, lavender, and just kind of spread them out so you're not pouring them all in one spot. make it easier to mix in. So mine are just kind of all spread out in there, and then I'm going to mix it around and smooth things together. Get all my scents to blend. Each of these, this paste is going to be distributed between all of those little mold cups. So I want to make sure that I'm getting some of each scent in there. Your area should be smelling pretty good right now. So now it's time for our last ingredient. If you want to add it, your optional thing to add would be food coloring, soap colorant, whatever you've got for color. The ones that you see here are 2 drops of green, 2 drops of blue, and that makes that like blue-green mixture that you're seeing in here. But you can make them whatever color you want, so whatever's coming to mind. You know, I've got a lot of artists on the call right now, so you definitely know how your color mixing goes together and what different colors make. But if anybody needs a recap, our red and yellow together are going to make orange. Our blue and red together are going to make purple. And then our blue and yellow together are going to make green. But most of the time in food coloring, you have your own extra green. So when we mix our blue and our green together, we're going to get that sort of sea foamy color if we keep it really light. If you like punchier color, feel free to add more. Add my drops right in here. You can always start with less and add more if it looks too pale. Stir them right in there. And this is the step that I thought required the most mixing. Just because if we don't do a ton of mixing, you'll almost have like a marbled look, which if you like that, you could totally work with that and have sort of a marbled look to your little shower bombs. But I almost found that pulling the color straight across, as you can see, like I'm doing it like this, actually mixed it a little bit better than when I was actually stirring it like this. So I'm going to kind of flip it over the top and mix and mix and mix till I get my color fairly consistent. But yeah, that color is so powerful that you can see it with just those couple drops, 2 drops green, 2 drops blue, I've already got a ton of color in there. These are going to be something that's an excellent gift. They'd make a good stocking stuffer, on like little cello bags with some cute ribbon. It'd also be really good in like a self-care kit, or if you know someone who's sick. I know a lot of people are doing sort of porch drop of supplies. I feel like this would be a really nice little added thing in a gift set like that. Everybody's going to start to get sniffly on the call. We're all going to have our congestion busters working right now as we're mixing.
Casey.
See it now.
Casey.
Oh, that's beautiful. Did you make yours pink? That's so nice. I always like when people do their own take on things. Make it a little different. this is kind of a sciencey class, kind of more of a kitchen-y, sciencey class versus most of our other classes are a little more on the art end. But all of these things take creativity, and doing things your own way is what creativity is all about. Okay, so mine's looking pretty mixed like this. Now it's time to add them to our molds. You don't have to do anything to prep your mold. You don't have to like grease it or Pam it or anything like that. Just pop it right in the way it is. I found that actually taking like a scoop on the end of my spatula and smushing it down was my best bet. If you don't smush hard enough, I get to show you a mistake. But that's how we learn, right? You can look at my mistake and learn from my mistake. If you don't smush hard enough, you're going to get these little sort of craters in the bottom of your molds. You can see how my little seashell isn't quite a seashell on that side. So you want to make sure that when you put it in the mold, you really push it down inside. And that'll be more picky if you've got molds with kind of funny shapes to them, like my seashell. If you've got round molds, things will go in there a little easier. I'm just kind of popping it on top and then squishing it in, using my spatula to squish it in. So that's why I'm using the spatula. That's why that was my preferred tool of mixing. It's not that it made such a great mixing tool. I don't think that part really made much of a difference, but it's nice to have that to sort of level off the backside of these. And as you work, you'll end up with a little bit of stuff left on top. That's really easy to brush away at the end. If you're doing this right now and it's like, okay, these are not sticking together, it feels crumbly, it feels not cohesive. If that's happening, that might mean that you need to add a little bit more water. It's not going to be a big deal to add the water after the food coloring or after the essential oils. So don't feel funny about that. You can always go back. Because they should look kind of smooth like this. They're almost like a little shiny and smooth. That's telling me that I've got enough water in there to have the right consistency for making my little bombs. We're making bombs tonight, guys. It's fun. So I'm going to keep squishing them all in there. This made like a tray and a half the last time that I did it. And mine are like 1 inch by 3/4 inch, just for scale.
Casey,
Yeah.
if we added too much water, will that like evaporate? Well,
They're going to go in the freezer at the end, so it's not going to do a great job evaporating. If you have extra baking soda, just even it out till you get a good consistency.
gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, the water will kind of float to the top and sit on top, so we can kind of blot it off at the end if you're seeing it right away. But when it gets frozen, it'll be a little different. They might just get stuck together a little bit more than you'd like. So if it were me, I'd add a little more baking soda.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'm really used to evening out the dry versus wet in baking. If anybody knows my husband, he is driven mad by the lack of measuring in my baking procedures. There's always a conversation that happens in which he's telling me that my finger doesn't qualify as a straight edge, and I'm telling him that I'm only using the measuring cup because he's in the room. So, you know, definitely used to adding a little extra flour or a little extra water to different recipes. I think that might be that art versus science stuff coming up. I like having these little silicone molds on hand for a few different things. So I am not someone, as you would guess from what I just said, not great in the baking department, not going to be making some fondant seashells. It's not a thing. But I like to make crayons, rainbow crayons, and rainbow crayons work really well in silicone molds just like these. So I've got a little set of them with different shapes, stars and hearts and skulls and all sorts of cool things. So that's what my normal use for these is. So like I said, you're going to press them all in until they're all flat on the top. If you've got a very smooth mold, you're probably going to get these little sort of smeary parts right here. They'll easily wash off later. If it bothers you now, it's really easy to just sort of go across the top and get rid of them. But it's not like it's a problem where it's going to be something that bakes on or sticks on. It'll wash off just as easily now or later if you leave it there. But if you're worried you're going to have little like hanging on edges, which could happen around this, just take your spatula or whatever you've got on hand and sort of scrape around those edges to clean them up. So once we've got them all into our mold or our multiple molds, depending on what you've got going on, these are going to go in the freezer. They can stay in there longer, but we want them to for sure be in for an hour. That's going to make them long enough to set and then be popped out from the bottom, like pressing out this way without destroying the shape, especially if you have little tiny indentations or something like this. So then we'll be able to push them out and store them in something else. This first setting time is nice to have it in the mold because it's going to obviously take the shape of what it's in, but then also prevent it from sticking together. Once they are all set like that, you can toss them together. Like you can see how I've got mine stored in here. I'm doing this because these are things I'm going to use in my shower. So if they come out a little funny looking, if one side gets a little flat or if it gets stuck to its buddy next to it, it's not a big deal, right? If you are going to gift them, keep them flat on like a sheet of wax paper until you're ready to wrap them up and send them away. That way you can sort of make sure that they're at their cutest when they're going to be gifted. And then as far as storing, you can store them in the freezer like I am. It just means they're going to last a little longer if they're stored that way. Otherwise, anything in an airtight container, the one that I've got here is like a Pyrex container, but a Ziploc works. Anything that's going to be airtight to just keep that a little bit more sealed. And then about 3 weeks is the amount of time. Longer in the freezer, but about 3 weeks airtight. And then you can just kind of pop them out and set them on top of the shower drain. And then as the hot water runs over it, it'll sort of release those essential oils and make your bathroom smell lovely and also hopefully break up congestion, which if you can hear me sniffling, we've already done that. Do you guys have any questions? How are yours turning out?
I just did half because I couldn't find another tray, but
Nice.
and then I used liquid watercolor, so I'll let you know if it stains my tub.
Oh,
I don't have food dye, so they're
nice.
green. You can't really see. Yeah.
Like a minty green or like a limey green?
Limey.
Nice. Very good. Good. Anybody else want to share? Or do you have stars over there at Katrina's house? Nice. Oh, there's all sorts of shapes.
It's like underwater sea creatures.
Oh, nice. That's perfect for the bath. Good. Hazel, what are yours in?
She saw seashells, and ours is in the freezer already.
Oh man, you're fast. Oh, there, Mama's got it. Very nice. I like all these nautical themes for shower melts. That seems super appropriate. Great, guys. Well, I hope this gave you a little taste of what our classes are like. And if you've taken classes with us before, I'm glad to see your faces again. It's always nice to sort of have this community and moment of creativity. I think right now those are two things that we all desperately need. So it's good to see faces and feel like we're here together in all of this. If you haven't taken a class before, this is sort of like a mini workshop. So most of the time our classes are 60 to 90 minutes. They always include all of your supplies as well. So you don't have to run around your kitchen and search for stuff and place quick orders on Amazon. All of your supplies are delivered right to your door and you can just kind of jump on and join in with your class. If you haven't registered for our next class, today is the last day to register for our weaving workshop. So the final product looks like this. It's sort of like a chunky earth tones weaving. So you get all the yarn to do little tiny delicate stitches, and then also big chunky fat stitches like this. If you're new to textiles, completely new to textile art, you will feel fine in this class. It is step by step from making our loom to learning our stitches to putting in our layers. And it has a lot of room for you to kind of make your own decisions about which colors you want to work with and how big you want different areas to be, which is very fun. So like I said, that's the Chunky Earth Tones Weaving class. You can find that on our page. You can find that through our website. Anywhere in there, you'll be able to see where to sign up for that. If you have questions, just send me an email, send me a message. I can get you signed up on the back end as well. The next class after that is a local class only. I think there's only a couple of you in Green Bay area on here with me right now, but that is a wreath workshop, which is hosted by Angie from Ginger Birch, who's super talented, and that's going to be a very fun workshop. So that one's open for registration as well. And then coming up in December, I'm going to have another little mini freebie class like this one, which is a mantra painting class. We did this really early, I want to say in like May, April, early pandemic time. So now we're going to circle back and do that. It's just like a creative release. We're going to do that one in the evening, light a candle, settle in, somewhere between art and meditation. So it's a good thing to be doing, sort of kind of winding down at the end of the year with all this darkness. It's like 6:30 and it looks like it's the middle of the night. So it's a good thing to do during this season, this time. If you guys have any
I was
questions,
going to message you asking if you were going to do another one.
yes, see, now we're going to be all set. Yeah, for sure. I was kind of trying to feel out what a good time for that would be. So I'm thinking December will be great. And I also have a secret freebie workshop that'll be coming up in January too. I'll make sure to keep you guys on the list and let you know what that one is, but I'm really excited. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoy the rest of your night, and everybody should have a wonderful little spa experience going on in their bathroom, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Casey.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Casey. Bye.
Later.